Muy bien, ¿y tú?
Sí, igualmente, sí.
Okay.
Todo bien, ¿no?
Todo bien.
It's 7 o'clock. We are gonna wait a couple of minutes and we're gonna start. Okay, that's how we're gonna do it. Fine. I'm gonna in a couple of minutes. Okay, still people arriving. People arriving still.
Good.
Yeah.
36. Very good.
Configure la cámara.
Are you on?
Kind of trying to.
Okay. Hello, Andrew. Thank you, Margaret. Good. Thank you. Thank you for joining us.
Says invalid.
Thank you.
The address is invalid.
Hello.
Hola.
Tamara, hola. Oh, no te había visto bien. Oh my goodness. Haven't seen you in years. No te había visto
Sí.
en 20 años. Caramba, qué bien. Qué bueno verte. Beso.
Sí.
20 años, caramba.
Gracias. Gracias a vos por armarlo.
Okay,
No,
log out of
no,
here
a ti
and
por
we'll go in on
venir a ver.
yours.
Estamos
Do you
esperando
remember
más
your
gente que
info?
se, waiting for people
Yes,
to
but
join.
Mario, do you want me
Just
to stop
now.
this and then
Interesting. Okay,
log
fine.
out and then we'll go in with yours?
Have a big reunion.
Your
It
idea?
is. Look, I haven't seen Tamara.
You need to
I
have
don't know
a Zoom account.
how many years, Tamara. In so many years, isn't it?
Too many.
Too long, far too long.
Rules.
That has to be kind of sorted remedy. Okay, fine. Let's. Yeah.
Reunion.
Yeah. Well, it's part of this process, too, isn't it? It's also kind of social.
You can download it
Social
now or
life.
whatever.
Can I
there's an
ask
app.
people? We are gonna due to start. Some people will be arriving. Can I ask everybody to mute the microphone,
Launch
except
meeting.
Mario and Andre, please? Can I ask you to mute your microphone? Thank you. I don't want to. I could do it forcibly, but I don't want to do it. I don't think it's like
Okay,
not
there
very
you
nice.
go.
So please mute your microphones. Thank you. Okay. So what we're gonna do is we are due to start soon. Okay, three more people to arrive, and then we move on. 1, 4, middle. Thank you, Maggie. Thank you. Fine, Andre, all yours. Start. And anybody who is joining us, could you please mute your microphone? Thank you. Everybody who's joining us now, please mute your microphone. Thank you.
Okay.
That's it. Andre, all yours.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Juan, for organising this, and it's a real pleasure to look at this collage of beautiful, interesting faces and a reunion as well. So it's a very beautiful evening. So thank you, Juan. And Flecha, always a pleasure. Beautiful man, mischief in the eyes, and wonderful imagination. So I'm just going to read you Mario's bio. Mario was born in Buenos Aires of Paraguayan origin. We know he lives and works in London. We know, or we don't know, he published Untitled Magazine of Contemporary Art and Bastan Blanco. He has written 2 collections of short stories, Los Vendedores de Humo and Professor Monday Zofana, and he has collaborated with Gregorio Cojon and Vicky Rosenberg on Truco Gallo. He is also the co-founder of Museo de las Palabras de Jeffrey. We're outside of Barcelona. And of course, Mario is so much more than this, as is evidenced by all his wonderful colleagues and friends and fans, of which I think we are all one. So Mario, we're just going to go for about 15 minutes through your bio, really. And up here, we've got a lovely screen of your magazine, Untitled, with such amazing images. So, if we look at Untitled, your first magazine, is that right? Your first magazine?
Yeah, it was an art magazine.
Yeah. It was an art magazine.
It was an art magazine who ran for quite a long time, about 15 years. Well, I don't know what I should say. I've been running that magazine for 15 years, from say something 1992 to 2005, 2006.
Beautiful. And as a writer, it was just purely a visual arts magazine.
It
Is
was
that right?
a visual art magazine who started only doing reviews of exhibitions around London. And then we decided that was very little, so we decided to have more critical articles in the magazine. And it was a period of, it changed a lot, the shape and form of the magazine. It started like as a tabloid and ended like a proper magazine.
Yeah, beautiful. I love this color. And if we move on to Baston Blanco.
Baston Blanco is a completely different story altogether. Baston Blanco was created mainly asking artists to write, thing which normally they don't do, and most of them refuse to do it. But one of the peculiarities of the Baston Blanco was that when we received the text, we print it as we receive it. We don't edit it anything, and we don't change the language either. So if the text coming in Chinese, we print it in Chinese. Which make a bit difficult because it was a magazine who have about 10 different languages, and none of them was possible to read for most of the people. And we only produced 4 Baston Blancos. One of the peculiarities is that each of them have a different typeset because the guy who designed it make it a special one for each issue.
Cool. I like it.
Then
and
another chapter was kind of extraordinary story because I have a little gallery in my house in Jafra, which is a very small village outside Gerona. The village is only about 500 people living there, and friends of mine start to ask me to produce something else, which I thought was a funny joke. And then we exaggeratingly put it the name of Biennale, which was a kind of a joke mainly. But in our first edition, about 100 people, 150 people arrived. To our surprise, we thought probably we get 10 people looking around. In reality, we were many more, and that gave us courage to produce many more editions of the Biennale. In these images we are looking now is Breda Bevan, the most beautiful woman in Guccia. It was a video. And the other side is B. Turner, who produced this installation, who was very strange but extremely beautiful because in these 2 walls you can see it produce a kind of a tunnel image, a tunnel image, and you can see it from a distance, and then smoke arises around that image, and it was extremely beautiful.
I like the when I first saw it, I thought I saw Gaddafi and Vladimir Putin in the photo before. I had a chuckle. I thought that was like a Mario mischievous picture. And then we move on to, oh yeah, there it is. Yeah, I for a split second I thought you'd had Colonel Gaddafi and Vladimir Putin at your at your festival.
The other way, no, not.
Yeah, you wouldn't put it past you, would you, Mario? And if we move on to your first collection of short stories.
Yes, that was the Smoke Cellar, is the translation, Los Vendedores de Humo. and that was a kind of about 10 short stories, which I produced very quickly in, I don't know, 6 or 7 months, which is extremely difficult for me to write so fast. But it's okay, I done it. And then in the other side, the cards is an anthology of short stories where there were 3 writers who live in London, Argentinian writers who live in London, and we produced 4 short stories each and build up this book, which called Truco Gallo. Truco is a card game who is very popular in Argentina. But Truco Gallo is a very complicated game because they only play 3 people, and at one point one of them play against the other 2, and they've changed each time. So you only play at one point with 2 other people.
Mario, can I just ask, someone said, could you maybe move a bit closer to a microphone and speak a little bit louder?
Okay.
Yeah.
It's better.
Yeah. I think, is that better? Oscar, is that better? I think, yeah, Oscar, double thumbs up. So that's terrific. Yeah. Really good. Yeah, nice. Okay, so Truco Gallo or Gallo.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Really interesting. I love the color, the cover as well of all your books. Yeah, you've always got beautiful art and beautiful images.
Well, in Los Vendedores de Humo, there is a friend of mine, a Belgian artist who lives in Mexico. He's called Francis Alice. And he is quite well known at the moment. And he gave me this drawing ages ago.
The group of people.
And when I saw it, I said, oh, it's very beautiful, because you can not read properly, but it said curriculum vitae in the other side. And it's a man just walking on a string.
Yeah, on a tightrope.
A tightrope, yeah.
Very vulnerable and fragile and strong at the same time.
Yeah.
Well, it's terrific. And then we had another, yes, Professor Mande Zofana.
Yes, Professor Mande Zofana is just another story. It's a kind of 10 short stories or 12 short stories, which I've been writing very slowly, and it took me ages to do it. And
he shared the screen.
That's why.
The title of the book arises because one day I went to Japan in winter, and it was very cold and horrible. And somebody invited me to their house, and we have supper in a very small kitchen where they have a chimney, and they were burning books. And the books they were burning, they were esoteric books, or if you wanted, who belonged to the mother of my friends. And they decide, well, nobody wants these books at the moment, so they just burned it. So I recuperate a few of them, like the history of the doubles, what to do with the gems, very strange books. And when I come back to London, I went to the reading market, and there I saw a guy giving a card saying that he is a witch doctor and he cure you of anything and everything. Sexual problems. If you want to wish to earn the lottery, you call him and he made you to win the lottery. So I decided to write Professor Mande Zofana.
The picture people have on
and the story is a bit absurd, but quite interesting to me.
Yeah, and the artwork again is, well, for me anyway, it's really striking. It's beautiful. Who are the artists?
The way the drawing is done by my daughter.
What doesn't have
They
to
don't
be?
need
Right.
It doesn't have to be.
They
on.
don't need to see me.
Right.
Not
Yeah,
on me too.
terrific.
They should
Up to you.
They're really
I don't know
beautiful.
what
And then
they
when
even
we
look
talk
like
about
because they've
you
taken over the
and your
screen.
history,
Oh, lucky look.
Yeah.
there you go. One's so good up with his finger there, yeah. Museo de las Palabras.
But El Museo de las Palabras is a
What
place
is
in
it?
Jaffa again, which
Mhm.
is
He's
doesn't
joined
exist.
by his daughter, I think.
Oh, very nice.
Jaffa have a river and a canal. The canal used to have a laundrette where people of the village go and wash their clothes. When they stop doing that, they just keep the place, which is a little room next to the canal. When we done the museum, as we call that a museum, because we don't have any
Museo de las
shelves, we don't
Palabras.
have any books, we don't have anything. It's a symbolic space. And we call it museum mainly because we saw that the muse, according to the Greeks, is where they go and live. And we decided that all the muse around Jaffa go and to see the museum.
That's beautiful. And sorry again. And the artwork again. Terrific.
The artwork,
Who are the artists?
they are interesting, but they don't know what to do with that. It's a very abstract thing, if you want.
Yeah.
So that's it. That's the museum. By time to time, we ask people to talk by themselves or
If you click here,
do something, recite poems or whatever. And some people do it, and some people
and
don't.
yours is different because
Yeah,
No,
because I'm on a laptop. and
Wonderful. I
you're on
love
an
it. So if we move on to your latest,
Interesting.
yes,
Yes.
Anastasia's
I see that.
Toes, your new collection, in purely English as well, which is a bit of a departure. Your
Well,
new
it's
collection.
been translated by Camilla.
that shows me.
It's been translated.
There you are.
Um,
Good. Keep it on there.
which is my wife, as you know that.
How come mine is off?
Well, I don't know what to say about the book.
Oh, there we go.
It's always very difficult to talk
Can
about
you see
oneself.
Let's see.
Yeah, well, so self-promotion, isn't it, really? Like, we live in this age of a lot of people are very good at self-promotion, other people aren't,
There's
and
nothing.
artists and writers, some are and some aren't, and that. Well, anyway, I've had the pleasure of reading it, so thank you very much, and thank you very much for writing it and creating it. Personally, I loved it. It brought a lot of joy to me, and humor and mischief. And it seemed to me, just my subjective view, it goes from Argentina to where you are now in London. So it switches. It's your life. As I say, it's mischievous and it's very eclectic. You've got stories on walking in the park and having a returned soldier, I think from Iraq, who had PTSD, who's speaking very loudly and saying horrible things, and someone wants to kill him, and then he ends up being driven over by a car. From the wonderful story about the kind of witch doctor curing people, when it starts with the fox story. I mean, we don't have much time, but the wonderful, wonderful stories. I loved Muñeca Bravo, which is at the end. I mean, I just think that's terrific, and there's so much variation in this. Would you say that that's true? There's a lot of variation and a lot of you and.
Yes, because they talk about politics and a lot of details in life. It's not didactic, and at the same time, we have this
I turned my camera.
writer who lives in Canada, who happened to have my same name,
You should.
and he's called Mario Flecha
You say I'm here.
too, and he writes haikus.
You have videos off.
And
Your videos off. Did you know that?
That's right. And
it's part
yes,
of
of
this
course.
book of Anastasia stories.
Yeah.
And
Yes, the haikus at the end, they come along as sort of a dessert and a quirkiness that you don't expect when you start the book. And you know, they're so much fun. They're very profound and great. I'm going to read a few, and you're going to read a short story. But I was going to ask the story of the smoke cellars. When you're in Brick Lane, I think you're in Brick Lane, and if anyone hasn't read the book yet, I mean, Mario, that is an extremely funny story, right? And deep as well. You know, you take in a sort of a macho Argentinian man who gets a little bit homophobic, and then you've got a friend who then your character, if it's you or your character, is then silenced, and your friend sort of talking to him, and he thinks that you're deaf. And did you enjoy writing that story, or are they all that hard, painful, rigorous?
I normally enjoy writing, so to write that story was a pleasure for me, and mainly because they were all Argentine, and they all have different attitudes to life, and I reckon it's a kind of a normal thing that happens. People are different, and to see all of them sitting in a bar and being absolutely stupid at some point, it was interesting. Yes, I really enjoyed writing.
Yeah, and just another one, a little one. The one that I didn't get, and I guess it's because I'm a New Zealander, although I spent a wonderful year and a bit in South America, and I'm in love with the place on many levels. But the one I struggled with, but I think, correct me if I'm wrong, poison nipples. Is there a kind? Do you have to be an Argentinian of a certain type of knowledge for that one? Where there's some.
Well, yes, there's
head on,
ambiguity.
and it's very quirky.
I think there is some ambiguity because it never said what attitude these two the two persons who are the character of the story, but it somehow to suggest they were involved in politics, and somehow suggests that one of them is a traitor, which is what very common in this type of circumstances. But the story never mentioned directly any of those things. It's all very ambiguous. And yes, you need to know quite a lot about what happened in Argentina in the 70s. So that explained properly that story.
Likewise, the story magnetic tapes.
Sorry, what?
The other story, magnetic tapes.
Yeah, that's again is very political, and well, it's not very political. It's political without getting mad about it. And it's practically what happened with the recordings. They were real. There were these two guys, the Argentinian filmmakers, who were very well known, and they've been supporting the parents Peron mainly, and they were filming him in Madrid, where he was exiled, where Peron was exiled. Apparently, Peron had a tree there in his house in the garden with oranges. And one of them became a bit silly, one of the filmmakers. And he was very bored of filming Peron and his talking. So he went to go away, mainly. But that's the start of the story. What happened inside what I wrote is totally different. But again, was very real in terms of what happened in Argentina at that point.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
The idea of,
before.
sorry. The idea
Yeah. I just want. Sorry.
No, sorry.
Okay. Yeah, no, I just wanted to say on a personal note before, because I believe that you're going to read us a short story, and I'm going to read 5 of your haikus after that. But I just wanted to share with everyone, really. There was a lot of these stories that I read, and I take a long time to read, I think, is often very beautiful words. And at times I was reading them and I stopped. And you correct me if I'm wrong, but I found a lot of your sentences extremely poetic, particularly in Anastasia's Shoes. Like beautiful, profound lines on relationships and love. I mean, I was sitting there going, whew, this is a real pleasure. It's real beautiful. So I thought I would there's so many of them, Mario, but I had a couple that I underlined, and actually, there you go. It's in Anastasia's Toes. So, I hope you take the compliment. But this beautiful line, we promise to postpone our emotions until next summer. When you're writing these stories, do you sort of really slow down and try for that kind of profanity and work on it, or how's your process go like that? They just come out and then you rigorously edit them later?
Well, the process mainly is that I write everything that goes to my mind at certain points. And then I prune that a lot. I delete and add things.
Do you want any other picture?
So all these sentences can be accidental if you want, because I've been deleting things and add things, and probably it's not what originally I was thinking. That's the end, maybe.
Beautiful. And then the other sentence in that story that I think is just beautiful and profound and poetic and lovely is, autumn's darkness gave way to that of winter, and then spring appeared gingerly ceding to summer. Beautiful, Mario. Very Robert Frost. Reminds me of my dad, actually. But beautiful. Autumn's darkness gave way to that of winter, and then spring appeared gingerly ceding to summer. Terrific. Anyway, are you going to read us a short story?
Yes.
I think is that how this is going to go?
I start right now.
As I'm
one of the short stories in the book, and it's called Juan Petings. My name is Juan Petings. I was born in South America on the bank of the River Plate. I share a student's room in London with José Teruel, son of the famous tango singer, destroyed by circumstances. When we met, I drew a map of the room on a sheet of white paper, marking out his territory and mine. Jose, son of the Buenos Aires suburb, smiled, put his right hand in his trousers pocket and took out a piece of chalk with which he traced a line along the floor dividing the bedroom in two. He never crossed over into my side, and I was terrified of going into his.
He's
Only our
25
voices
years
moved
old,
freely.
and he has still a very
Every morning, I traveled by tube from Highbury and Islington to Victoria. I entertain myself by looking at people or getting up close to an attractive passenger. There are days when I get off the train impulsively at any station in order to walk. Yesterday, on my walk, I saw a very beautiful pair of shoes. They were narrow, black leather with gold buckles. The desire to own them grew slowly overnight. I have got to buy them, I thought. But in reality, I didn't have enough money for even one shoe. I share my problem with Jose. If you help me, we can buy them between us, I said. And why would I want to buy a pair of shoes you like? With those shoes, women are going to go mad, I said. What guarantee have you got? Total. I say that people's character is on the floor. What shoes they use say who they are. Sorry. What should they use say who they are, what they do, how they live. Everything else is insignificant. Clothes, makeup, perfume, glasses. With this advantage, you can chat up anyone you like. You are mad. The best way to seduce an English woman is with a cat under your arm. We got up at the same time. From my window, I see grey sky, which projects an atmosphere of identifiable unpleasantness. Cold, rain, the absence of color, life in black and white, or worse, in different shades of grey. Winter downs in London have the peculiarity of being a challenge to the wish to live. We ran to the station to avoid getting wet. Once on the train, I began defining passengers via profound observation of the shoes and saying to Jose, middle-class couple, fat, of an undefined gender, banker, beautiful horse. We got off at Green Park and unconvinced decided to buy the shoes. I will use them on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. He on Tuesday, Thursdays, and Saturdays, while on Sundays they have a rest. On Friday, I contentedly got on the tubes, sat down and crossed my leg, showing my new pair of shoes to the world. I hid behind the newspaper. I felt the heavy eyes of a beautiful woman looking at me. I quickly got off at Euston Station to confuse her. I knew it would be hard for her to recognize me again, as my shoes had been the only thing visible. On Saturday, Jose put on the black shoes with the gold buckle, and we left together to get the tube. I recognized the woman who had been observing me the day before and looked at her in the eyes and smiled to get her attention, but she completely ignored my efforts and kept looking at Jose's feet. We got off at Green Park. You were right, said Jose, and off he went with her.
Thank you. Yeah, I like that one. That's called Juan Pilkings.
Yes.
Pilkings, yes. I thought when I read that, it made me laugh a lot, and I definitely thought of you. I definitely thought of you. Cool. Well, okay. So at the end of the book, thank you very much. There is haikus.
Yeah, that's
Haikus.
doppelganger from Canada.
Yeah, you're the guy that writes the haikus is from Belo Horizonte.
Yes.
Correct my pronunciation, even though I've actually been through there. And Minas Gerais, that's the guy who writes these haikus. He's been living in Alberta, Canada since 2001. He's published 5 poetry books, one of them a national prize, plus a collection of short stories from which have appeared in anthologies of contemporary Brazilian writing. Is this your shadow side, Mario, or alter ego?
It's my doppelganger.
Aha. Okay. Okay, so I'll read the last 5.
That's cool.
And I hope they do you justice. So 2, 4. This one is called Windmill by your doppelganger. After all that is left is the sound of the air being cut by the windmill's blades. I think, again, they've got so much weight in them. These are very powerful. Among stones, running among stones, a creek plays, music in my heart. Very nice. Scattered oracle. I lie on words like scattered cards of an oracle laid and never played, while the city runs awoken, laying its trades of lies. Next one, ashes fire. Like ashes awakening from a final sleep, a friendly wind blowing softly lights the fire underneath. Nice. And this one, eyes wide shut. Listen with eyes wide shut. Snowflakes dripping the sound in a dark street, mourning the day. And so that was the last one. So your doppelganger writes haikus.
Yes.
Very nice. So what a treat. So as I'm aware,
That's so awesome.
if it's right, we're going to open this up for a discussion, a question and answer session with you, Mario. So I think Juan is shepherding this process. But thank you very much again for what you've done, and that, as I say, it's terrific.
Thank you.
Yeah, most welcome.
Thank you, Andreas. Thank you, Mario. Great. Look, it's very simple. Just ask the question. The question could be asked in English or Spanish. I'm sure we will manage translations here. No problem at all. With many bilingual people in this chat. So just feel free to ask questions. So go ahead. That's it. Just to say, Mario's book is available on Amazon and also can be bought. We now have a bookshop in the magazine in Perro Negro, so you can purchase it through Perro Negro or through Amazon. Either way. Anyway, any questions? Anybody? You can unmute yourself and then ask the question. No problem at all. Also, we got Mario Flecha. Mario's doppelganger, who is also Mario Flecha. He's here with us from Canada. So feel free to ask Mario also. Either of the Marios also.
Hola.
Hola.
Hi.
I should turn off.
Very
Very
glad
strong.
to
So
be here.
Very glad to be here.
And to listen to my poems being read. It was awesome.
It
Moved
was
me.
awesome. Moved me.
Oh.
Turn up yours. I'll do it for you.
Okay. Lots of echo.
And I think Oscar
Can we
wants to.
actually, instead of asking a question, I could ring him tomorrow and ask him 300 questions. But since I have these people around, I'd like to make a comment to anybody who went to know. This week, sadly, have died a magnificent poet from Buenos Aires called Raúl Santana. The newspapers actually mentioned the fact that he was a curator, which he also was. But the most important activity Santana had was to actually be the man from Fahrenheit, whatever number it was, from Ray Bradbury. He memorized every single poem written in Argentina, Brazil, Chile, Uruguay, you name it, including the complete sonnets of Shakespeare. So I have to inform you that if you one day want to find out about what a real poet looks like, try to find out his books. There's a particular one called Lengua Madre. He was a magnificent poet, a great man, and I feel very, very sad that the Argentinian culture have lost a man of such stature. That's all I needed to say. That's it. Goodbye. Cheers.
Good question.
My hand is still standing.
5451. I got a question for
Sounded
Mario,
more.
actually, just to think. Mario, you have been involved, and Andre pointed that on the presentation about you have been involved with visual art quite a lot, with the magazines and stuff. And I know you're an art collector too.
Do you
And
want me to
some of the
turn
stories
my off
deal
again
with
and your
art,
tutor's
deal
there?
with painting.
Yes.
How much does art in your writing?
Well, I work with artists for a very long time. And so art informs whatever I do very much because I've been working with artists practically all my life. I have a gallery for many, many years in London. I did picture framing in London. So my relation with the arts are very close with visual art.
Probably many speakers were open.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
And some of the stories are about that element of doppelganger, you know, double people and even artists. It's also it's present in your short stories. There's a story about this person, a curator, organizing an exhibition of a famous, in inverted commas, really famous Uruguayan artist in Paris.
Yes.
Could you tell us about that story? Because I remember you mentioned at some point that there was an element of truth in that story. There was kind of, the beginning of that story, of the idea started from a factual.
There's somebody who done something quite similar to what I described in the story, which mainly was to organize an exhibition, change the paintings, asking for paintings, and then he make fake of the original paintings, and then give it back to the owners, the fakes, and he keep the real paintings. Until one point that he was bankrupt and need to sell some of the paintings, and when he tried to sell it, the people called the police, mainly because they realized that they sold the similar painting 2 months before. So it was impossible that the two paintings were real. One of them needed to be fake. And yes, that story happened. I add other things, but it was like that, yeah.
Okay. Any other questions, anybody?
Maggie would like.
Maggie, unmute yourself, Maggie. Can you unmute yourself? Yes. Okay.
There we go. Mario, hi. Yeah, I really enjoyed the stories. And I'd be really interested to know what order you wrote them in, because to me, there was a complementarity between some of them, particularly, for instance, Anastasia's tones, which, is about transactional belief and trust between people. The dynamic is between the sister and the two people in particular. But also, what was the one painting, the fake painting that you were talking about? Because that seemed to me to complement it in the sense that it was about a commercial transaction and about a group of people involved in a thing as opposed to a relationship, although the relationship was part of the commercial transaction. And the two stories seem to have be two sides of the same coin. So I'd be very interested if, whether you wrote one after the other. I mean, obviously you moved your stories around in the book, but did you find that you were writing one story after another or separately?
No, they are for me, they were two different stories altogether. They were not related.
No.
At all. No. Perhaps it's because it's been writing in two different times. I don't really know, but I don't recognize that they were all one after the other, and they were related in some ways. Sorry, that's it.
I'd like to say something, if possible. Gregorio Con. I think that just to hear about, I'm on? Yeah. I just about Raúl Santana, and of course he was a very good friend of mine from the 60s in La Calle Corrientes. Extraordinary character, extraordinary man. And I cannot but think that this is the best moment, in a way, to celebrate his life at the moment. I did not know he had died. But the mixture between, art and poetry and literature that Mario Flecha also is a good sort of example of that. Raúl was an incredible character, and what was mentioned just now, that he could remember poems by heart. I spent many evenings in pizzerias and bares in La Calle Corrientes with him reciting incredible poems, but you could not believe what he did. There was one other poet in Argentina, Armando Tejada Gómez, but he could remember his own poems. He was different. He could go on and on and on and on reciting. But Raúl was a fantastic, fantastic man, and great appreciation. And so I'm sad about his death, but I think that is a good moment to name him. And thanks for this meeting, Mario. Gracias. Te felicito por el libro, que lo compré y lo leí y me parece fantástico.
Me encanta.
Bravo.
Can I ask something? Yeah. Mario. Can I ask you something? It's me, Adam.
Adam, yeah.
Can I probably asked you this before, Mario, but you just pretend you've forgotten, okay? Just pretend you've forgotten, and I'll ask it again. So, Jorge Luis Borges famously said he had a distrust of writing novels, but he was asked, why have you never written a novel? And he said, mi incorregible holgazanería. He was lazy, but he also said it's more easy, es más fácil vigilar un cuento. It's easier to because it's writing. He said writing a short story is more like you have to be more precise, like writing a sonnet, and he liked that. Whereas the novel, you can, when you forget all the details, you have to go back and check again, and he couldn't cope with that. Have you ever been tempted to write a novel yourself?
No. I think other thing Borges said about that is that why he went to write 200 words if he can do the same or say or mean the same with 10. In that case, probably I'm very lazy to write a novel too.
Because if you talk to novelists, they say no, but it gives you have the freedom. I know you know you can. It gives you a freedom that short stories don't have. Of course, short stories are they have to be every word has to count, whereas you can be a bit you know actually you can be lazier when you're a novelist. I think it's strange that Borges said he was lazy. He was too lazy to write a novel. I think you can be lazier. Right? I mean, I'm writing a novel at the moment, and you know you don't have to be careful of every word. Yeah, you don't have to be careful of every word like you do with a poem or short story. But so you're not going to write a novel, you don't think?
No, I don't think so.
Well, I may hold you to that. Let's see. Give you a few years and let's see, Mario. I wonder.
Well, I doubt it.
I wonder.
No,
No?
probably yes, I'm too lazy.
Okay.
And I quite like to do many other things, just not writing.
Okay. I believe you. I think I believe you.
Well, we talk soon. Oh no, next
Vamos
year.
a ver, ya veremos. Dentro de 5 años.
We'll see.
Bueno, ya veremos.
Ya veremos.
Ya veremos.
Hi, Mario. Can I speak now?
Yes. Well,
Can I ask you a question? Yes?
Yeah, but
it's Beatrice.
Yeah.
Yes.
Hundreds of people then.
Yes, I noticed that your writing style is quite similar to the English style with lots of full stops when in Spanish we use relative sentences, you know, we use a lot of que, y, que, donde, cuando, etc. You know, very, very long sentences with connectors. And your style is more English. Is that, how can I say this? Is that because of the translation? So is that Camila's decision about the writing style, or is it you that write like that?
Well, I think it's me writing like that, and Camila translated that. But no, I think it's. I've been living in this country for a very long time. I lost all the Baroquism that the Spanish have, so that's why my sentences and all that are very short. I drop all the adverbs, so that's.
But I really like it because it's a sort of condensed. It's very economic, you know, and it shows a lot. Yes, I love it. I really like.
Yes, it's beautiful. I have the ebook if you want.
So, Juan.
Thinking about any more questions from people. I mean, you know, I don't know. Anybody else? Any further questions from
Sí, una pregunta de acá de Argentina.
Muy bien, absolutamente.
Y un viejo conocido de Mario. Que entiendo de alguna manera también sus historias de otra manera porque sé que las escribe un amigo y veo cosas de él en todas las historias, en algunas más, en otras menos. Pero la pregunta concreta sería, ¿sabes si podés contar si pensás cuando escribís en castellano o en inglés?
Oh.
That's a complicated question.
It's a question about the language in which you think when you're writing.
Yeah, no, but it's complicated because when I said if I write something about visual art, where I've been working for so long, I do it in English. If I write the short stories, I do it in Spanish.
Yeah.
And these two languages, I cannot mix it. They are two different. For me, it's like a kind of a schizophrenia I got, where to write one thing I use one language, and to write something else I use another language. I mean, to do the short stories, I do it in Spanish, always. To write about art, I do it in English. It's much more easy. It's like I know the language. If I need to write a critic or something in visual art, I have all the language in English, but not in Spanish. But I don't know, perhaps other people do something different. I don't know. Adam probably can.
I don't know, yeah. Just to think, yeah. Or could be a question of functionality, Mario. The shopping, the shopping list is in English. Things like that, isn't it?
It's a possibility.
Yeah. Checks in English, isn't it? Yeah, that kind of stuff. The right checks. Nobody writes checks anymore, but I used to write checks in English only. Yeah.
I was wondering also if Juan, what you mentioned earlier about a certain double-edged consciousness or awareness of Mario with a doppelganger, if that might have to do with the sort of double universe of two languages.
I don't know, Mario. What do you think? Because it's very curious. I mean, this story, Tamara, with your question. I mean, like everybody else, I think Mario has to explain the doppelganger he has, which is Mario Flecha, who is another writer, who happens to live in Canada, etc., Brazilian. So, some people don't believe it. Some people think that it's a kind of basically another name, an assumed name for writing. Nombre pluma, as we say in Spanish. But I don't know. Yes. But the doppelganger, yeah, could be that element of living, inhabiting into languages. I don't know. Would you agree with that, Mario? What Tamara says that.
If there's any underlying duality.
Yeah. Do you see it like that, Mario?
I don't understand exactly what you mean, Mario.
Never mind.
Not the duality, the doppelganger duality might also be exacerbated or become more pronounced because of inhabiting two languages.
No.
No?
I don't understand what you're talking about, but
okay, fine. Leave it. Don't worry, fine. Any other questions? We are almost coming to an end. Any other questions for Mario?
Yes.
Oh, Isabel.
Yes, hi. Thank you very much, Mario. That was fantastic. Great discussion, and the story was as outstanding as always with your stories. They just take you into a completely different world. And perhaps talking about this duality, perhaps because I write in both languages as well, you're a different person when you're doing one thing than when you're doing something else in a different story, in a different language. What I wanted to ask is, where do you go from here? What is your next project? It's not going to be a novel. We know that. You've made it very clear that you don't want to do a novel. But is it another collection of stories, more haikus, whether it's you or someone else? and poetry. And I hope we can celebrate the same thing as we're doing now in a few months, perhaps.
Well, at the moment, there is somebody's doing a book with 3 writers and 3 draftsmen, or 3 visual artists. And it's called 6 to Tango, I think. And it's going to be graphic, how do you call it? Graphic narrative. So there's one guy, some of my stories have been illustrated or drawn by an artist. In this case, it's Oscar is working with my stories. And that's it. And probably I quite like to write more short stories, which I'm sure I want to do it in this year, probably. But still, I write very slowly. So probably I need 2 or 3 years for 10 stories, something like this.
Okay. Andre, if you close it, I don't know.
May I ask something?
Oh, yeah, Laura, of course. Sorry.
What does it mean that you write slowly? What is slowly?
It slowly means that take ages. The short story, because even when they are very short, I work it very hard in each of them and for a very long time. So that's mainly it.
Mm.
Should I say?
Are you a bit like
Yes.
Alice Munro,
I would.
the Canadian short story writer?
Yeah,
He's online.
She takes
So
up
what do I
upwards
do?
of a few years
Raise your
sometimes to
hand.
write a short story.
Yeah. Well, I think because
Reactions.
the process of doing short stories and the way I work, in a sense, I try to use as little words as possible, and at the same time I try to write in a way everything is understand the first time you read it.
To comment?
Yeah, to just go.
So it annoys me immensely to read twice the same thing.
Then you have to.
So that
Let's see.
made me work hard.
Yeah.
And take a lot of time to write any short story for me.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I don't know if it's very clear, but
no, it's really clear. You're talking about clarity. You're talking about clarity. I'm just aware that there's something on the chat here. There's a chat thing here from Mario Flecha from Canada.
Yes.
Saying he would like to comment on something. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I just would like to say how happy I am to be in this event and how nice it was to meet Mario over the web. We still could meet physically, and but I hope that will happen in the near future after all this COVID thing is gone. Right? And it's such a delicious thing to read his texts in Spanish and then now in English too. To me it was kind of a gift of life.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Very beautiful thing to say. It's very beautiful, Mario. And your accent, you sound almost as if you are from Minas Gerais.
Mm-hmm. Minas Gerais is a state in Brazil in the southeast region, right? You have you been there?
Been through there in a bus.
Oh,
and
very
I
nice.
The landscape was delicious. We wanted to stop, but we couldn't. We weren't allowed to.
Yes, and thank you for reading. It was very nice to get that.
All right, thank you very much. Do our best. Well, I mean, Mario Flecha, what beautiful way to sign off from another Mario Flecha who's so appreciative of your writing and work. And same with everyone here. We're looking into screens, seeing this lovely collage of colorful people and backgrounds, and it mimics you and your prose and your book. So thank you very much, and thank you to the big MC, Juan Toledo, who Revista Perro Negro, who is doing a marvelous job with this magazine, bilingual magazine. The website's terrific, Juan. The articles and everyone else here. So we're signing off. Do you have any last words yourself, Mario?
A big thank you to everybody.
I'd like to say thank you for inviting us, or me personally. But it's nice to connect with you, Mario, and yeah. We live not very far apart, actually, and I'm an artist, so there's lots of connections. And my parents named me after Ruben Dario, which I found late in life, which is like a real. My parents were from Spain, from Bilbao and Portugalete, but I was born here in London. They were Spanish refugees in the Civil War when they were kids.
Well, it is a small world, Ruben, because Adam has just finished a translation of Ruben Dario's poem in verse, in English.
Oh,
in
wow.
English.
Okay.
Yeah, you are.
Oh,
So
right. Okay, I'll look out for
that's
it.
Adam's book,
Thank
which
you.
I'm reading kind of carefully at the moment. But yes, good.
I'll look out for it. Yeah.
But thank you everybody for coming, and thank you Mario for your
Thank you,
time.
Juan.
Thank you for attending. I hope you enjoyed. Hopefully we will have more of these. But thank you so much for being here with us. Excellent. Thank you. That was having nice.
Thanks, Mario. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye bye. Thank you. Bye bye everybody. Bye.
Ciao.
Bye. Bye, everybody. Bye.
Bye.
Bye, bye Patricia. Bye. Bye. Ciao.
Mario.
Bye. Bye. Ciao.
Ciao.
Ciao, ciao, ciao.
Ciao.
Bye, bye, bye.
Bye. Bye. Bye.
I don't want to go.
I like this.
Portugalete. I know Portugalete, Ruben. I know Portugalete.
What about it?
Okay.
That was awesome.
So good, Mario.
Yes.
So let's see. I was